One pleasant morning, a few days ago, I was invited to join an excursion party for the ascent of this notable peak. It was 11:15 and the atmosphere was cool and bracing, while the heavens were darkened with drifting clouds casting their dark, fantastic shadows over the deep canyons and the encircling ridges. Scrambling over boulders and through chaparral, an ominous rattling noise disclosed a rattlesnake 3 feet long. Before our stone artillery could be brought to the front, the reptile beat a hasty retreat into the tangled underbrush. A 3/4 mile walk landed us on the summit. The time made from the base to the top of the mountain was 1 hour and 40 minutes. News of California's gold strike in 1848 brought thousands of people to the west in search of new opportunities. They came by land and sea, from America and around the world, all seeking the promises that this precious resource had to offer. For some, this meant fame and fortune, but for most, the dream gave way to the harsh reality of frontier life. At the heart of the gold rush were small mining communities like that of Howland Flat.
In the beginning, they called California Gold Mountain, and just like everybody else in the whole world, they wanted to come get rich and go home.
The first miners were finding the gold in the streams, on the banks and the bars and the benches along the main rivers and main tributaries. They were becoming more sparse, so people were filtering up the hillsides and following the gulches and prospecting in areas that they hadn't prospected before. In Howland Flat is one of those excellent examples of a strike that came in 1853 in what they would kind of call dry diggings, areas away from the active stream channels. But they found these gravel deposits eroding out of the hillsides, and so they would tunnel in underneath them and try to follow these channels. Later, as time went on and hydraulic mining was developed, the activity where you take a lot of water and literally hose out the whole hillsides, that became a big deal here. In the 1880s, when hydraulic mining was curtailed due to California state law, it was a big blow to this country, and a lot of towns just folded up at that point of time. Howland Flat persisted because it was so rich and there were still untapped areas. They continued to mine here for many, many years. So it was a very, very profitable place to be for a long time, many decades.
Nestled at the base of Table Mountain, Howland Flat got its start in 1853 during the gold rush boom in California. Originally named Howling Flat after its location in a furiously wind-blown landscape, the name was changed a few years later as the town grew larger. People flocked to the area, hoping to strike it rich, and by 1863, there were about 1,500 people within 1 mile of Howland Flat, which supported several mines and businesses.
Howland Flat was a small town site supported by the mines, placer, of course, in the beginning, and then hydraulic mining.
It was the second largest gold camp in this area, LaPorte being the largest. It was a supply center for all of the outerlying gold mines, gold camps, including Poker Flat, Cold Canyon. Potosi is located here.
Howland Flat sprang up really quickly after 1853. They had a road in here within the first couple of years. That in and of itself, if you see this topography, should indicate how important this town was right away. But it was a full-service town. It had a post office, it had several saloons, 2 breweries, which was pretty remarkable, a couple of hotels. One of them, the Becker's Hotel, right up the road here, persisted up into the 20th century.
It was a regular community. They had saloons, and they had a school, of course, a church, Wells Fargo building, which there's remnants still today. There's 3 cemeteries. The cemeteries were segregated, of course. There's a Catholic and Protestant, and then there's a small military cemetery.
By 1940, Howland Flat was a ghost town. With the homes abandoned, the town site quickly fell into ruin. Today, a few structures remain standing, and evidence of the hydraulic mining is seen across the hillsides.
So Howland Flat really lasted, I would say, from the 1850s through 1940. But by 1940, there were very few houses left, and they were primarily summer homes of descendants of people that lived in Howland Flat early on.
The demise of Howland Flat came about because it was just after World War I. Some of the mines gave out. They didn't find the gold, so they had to leave. There was no way to make a living.
Like the last business closed in the 1920s, and that's probably when year-round occupation of the site probably ceased at that time. But people continued, those families continued to come back here in the summer, year after year. Many of them still to mine. Some of them just maybe more of a nostalgic place of family connections. Because literally there was time enough that there were generations of people who lived here, families who had a great tie to this place.
Located on federal land, the site is now managed by the USDA Forest Service. Since mining is no longer permitted at Howland Flat, the abandoned town now provides an excellent opportunity for Forest Service archaeologists to explore the past through excavation with Passport in Time volunteer projects. Passport in Time is a volunteer archaeology and historic preservation program of the Forest Service. Pit volunteers work with professional Forest Service archaeologists and historians on national forests throughout the United States on such activities as archaeological survey and excavation, with the ultimate goal of preserving the nation's past with the help of the public.
Archaeology and history is fascinating to people. It's one of the things that made my job kind of easy because it's an easy thing to get people interested in because they're already interested in it. The American public loves history, by and large. This program, Passport in Time, has been extremely successful because people get an opportunity to experience professional archaeology, professional history, and they get trained in it, and they come from all around the country. It's a lot of work for the cultural resource people to put it on, but nobody ever complains about it because it's so rewarding. Just like the project has been so rewarding. People love it, and we love to do it.
And it's a way for archaeologists on the forest who a lot of times don't have much help to get things done that they couldn't do otherwise. It's also a really good way to get the public involved in archaeology and then bring up people's awareness of how important archaeology and resources are. Gives people like me a chance to go and be an archaeologist or do archaeological work.
I don't think most people realize how much old material culture is just around them every day, even walking through an apparently empty forest. And so for them, I think a lot of times it turns out to be eye-opening. The pit project allows us to do that and act as an outreach to the public.
The more people involved in understanding and bringing the past to light, the more people who understand the importance of our forests and our archaeology and our history. And I think that's really important.
Well, it's neat working with the other enthusiasts that haven't really been on an excavation before, because you get to explain things to them, and that's when you really learn, is when you're teaching something. I'm not an expert myself, so I'm learning a lot of them, asking other questions, and everything from techniques and working with other Forest Service crews, working with people that you haven't before. It's really nice because you pick up their techniques or maybe better ways of doing things. It's a great learning experience.
I enjoy all parts of it. So whether I'm excavating or setting up units or screening or doing research or whatever, washing artifacts, it's all a part of putting a project together.
In 2010, the Feather River Ranger District on the Plumas National Forest began the first year of Passport in Time excavations at Howland Flat.
We decided to excavate Howland Flat because it's unique in that a lot of small towns in the West have not had systematic studies done archaeologically and historically, and so there's actually a really huge data gap in how these small towns function both economically and socially. We determined that Howland Flat can help answer a lot of questions about how were ethnic races like the Chinese integrated into small town society and rural life.
There was a big
history involved already, and people know a lot of information about Howland Flats as it is, so there were things that we could look for in the history of it and see if there was material evidence.
We can take the archaeology, overlay it with a historically known entity, which adds great value to the material culture that comes out from the excavations that we're doing. We get an opportunity to relate artifacts to people, to activities, instead of trying to figure it out with just the artifacts, which is often quite difficult. We have that rich historic record to add to it.
Really, that's what we're looking for, to see what's left there, and does it match the historic document, which often it doesn't.
There's so much material coming out of these excavation units that people are just overjoyed constantly finding things. I mean, yesterday Jamie asked if he had a prize for whoever didn't find anything, and there wasn't a single person in the group that didn't find anything.
We found all kinds of really interesting European artifacts, transferware, ceramic, porcelain. Really interesting trying to read behavior in the archaeological record from the artifacts.
Not only is it like a perfect place to be, I mean, a beautiful area and awesome artifacts just everywhere. You don't even have to excavate to find awesome artifacts just laying all over the surface. But yeah, the public interaction, it's a lot more fun because everybody's so enthusiastic, but everybody's just really interested in having a good time. Everybody's friendly, and it's making me realize how special a job like this is, how important it is.
If they're interested in history at all, that this would be definitely the thing to do. And that I learned about archaeology that I never really realized how much was involved in it and everything, and what you can learn from it.
I think the best thing is I'm so impressed by the young people on this excavation and the young archaeologists. They are really delightful. They have a gentle, wonderful manner about them, and I'm impressed.
Nobody thinks that we have a silly question. Sometimes you get a little bit intimidated when you're working with other people that have, knowledge that you don't. And I just find that there's just no question is too silly to ask.
I would encourage even more people to come out to do these kind of events because I think they would have such a fantastic time. Part of the fun of it is the people and just, getting together with people and finding out their history, what experience they have had, and most of the other people that are volunteers have the general interest that you have, so there's a connection almost immediately.
The people are phenomenal. Everybody's really enthusiastic. People who come out to these kinds of projects come out because they're interested in the first place. They don't just stumble out here accidentally. They're already motivated, they're already interested, so everybody's in a learning mode. And so we're all sharing, we're all looking at what everybody else is doing, and we're all getting a broader understanding of this site very rapidly. It's been a lot of fun.